Coming to you live from Johannesburg over the next half an hour, an in-depth look at the big local, international and African stories that are shaping our world this evening. This is Tonight with Jane Dutton.
I want the president! I want the president! I want the president! I want the president! They are going to kill me, guys!
She's stripped naked for her rights, resorting to the most powerful protest a woman can make. Gugu Nkube was arrested outside the union buildings. Her naked message about sexual harassment has divided the country. It seems it's easier to violate a naked body than see it used for political gain. Nude protests have a long tradition in Africa. Do they work? All political party lists are in. We know who's considered good enough to lead us in government, even if they've been involved in state capture. Now the IEC takes over the electoral baton. We ask the head of the commission what tops the list of priorities, how they'll deal with parties threatening journalists, and why there are more people voting overseas than ever before. It's Groundhog Day in Britain, another desperate attempt by MPs to break the Brexit stalemate. Why can't they just make up their minds and agree on a way forward for the good of the country? The British High Commissioner will tell us what's behind the parliamentary games and the impact on our economy. But first, the news headlines. Flooding, rain and storm surges, that's what's in the forecast as Cyclone Idai makes landfall along the Mozambican coast. We'll get a live update at 9. Attempts are underway to improve school safety after the fatal stabbing of a Mondial High School pupil yesterday. 3 teenagers have since been arrested in connection with the murder of 19-year-old Kulani Matebula.
Is to stand for the expropriation of Anglo-American and all the mining companies and banks who have been stealing up to 300 billion rand every year.
And emotions run high as ENCA kicks off its series of town hall debates in Cape Town. It's the only province under DA administration, and the ANC is desperate to win it back. Similar meetings will take place across the country ahead of the elections.
I want the president! I want the president! I want the president! I want the president! They are going to kill me, guys!
A woman arrested for fighting for her dignity. Gugu Nkube staged a naked protest at the union building. She says she was sexually harassed by her boss, then forced out of her job when she reported him. After months of being silenced, yesterday she removed her clothes in a powerful representation of how sexual violence strips women of their humanity. We discuss what drives women to naked protest. Joining me here in the studio is writer Lindokulu Nkosi, who's written about the history of naked protest, and in our Cape Town studio, Hlengiwe Ndlovu, a lecturer at the University of Western Cape, who participated in a naked protest at Wits University as a PhD student. Welcome, both of you. Hlengiwe, when you saw what happened yesterday with Gugu and her message, you've done this before, what was your response?
Okay, my response is to say, so the first thing that you do immediately when you see that, you need to assess the responses from the public, and it's always, the responses are always violent all the time. And for me, it's always the case of people do not know, or they do not understand, or they are so ignorant, let alone to understand what it takes for a woman to strip and then show their body out in protest. And it's always reduced to seeking attention and all that, but people just don't understand what it takes to do that.
Ndukukhle, why do women protest like this? What's the message?
It's not so much the protest, or it's more the nudity, I think. It's finally allowing how people look at your body. And I think that's what the outrage is actually about, is that you'll find large and mass that men don't want to talk about what she's protesting about. They want to protest about the fact that she's naked. We strip and we get naked to force people to pay attention, but we also know that how they pay attention is always going to be altered.
And why do you think men find it so hard to see women do that?
Patriarchy, misogyny.
Yes.
It just means that they're not in control. If you're naked for their pleasure in ways that they can control how they consume your body,
then it's fine.
It's fine. You're naked in a way that points a finger back at them, that holds a mirror up, and then it's a problem. You'll find the same men arguing that it's uncultural for you to be naked in public spaces, it's untraditional, who will also be the same men who are lamenting the death of culture, why don't people go to reed dances, blah, 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 blah. The anger is not about the nudity, the anger is about the fact that she's speaking out and saying my body is mine.
Hlengiwe, we've got some quite dramatic pictures of you when you did your protest, your naked strip, and you got quite emotional. What was going through your mind when you were doing this, and why did you get emotional?
So when you take onto the street to protest, or when you step outside of your comfort zone to protest, most of the times it's not about what is going through your mind, but it's an immediate response to a situation. So mine was a response to a violent situation that was taking place. There has been so much violence that was happening on that particular day. The police had been shooting as early as 8 a.m., throwing stun grenades to students and everything. And these were just unarmed students. Who were just singing and marching around campus, and they were demanding their dignity, really, to have access to education so that they can address many states of poverty that exist in South Africa. But then you having a university and a vice chancellor who's sitting at his comfortable office at 11th floor and watching what is happening, because all what was happening on that particular day was being live streamed. And you also have a community nationally of leaders, presidents, and everyone else. People were supposed to be responsible for all these issues and doing nothing about the situation. But you are at the scene, you are where violence is happening. There are students who are getting injured all over the campus, and the paramedics are all over, but no one is taking a responsibility to address that particular situation. So you are left with nothing else to do, but you are like, okay, so much violence has been going down. This is a desperate situation. Okay. It needs some sort of intervention. And then you look at, what else do I have? You don't have anything at your disposal right now, but you still have that powerful body that you possess. And if you believe that if you step outside and do something with it, then you will calm down the situation, of which we did calm down the situation.
Linda Kutle, I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, how, you know, it seems easy to take advantage of a woman's body, but how powerful it can be in a protest like that. Now, we've seen this sort of statement made pre-colonial times in Africa. Why has it been there, and how has it developed?
It's one of the oldest protests. I think there's this way that men want to control and own women's bodies, but they're also incredibly terrified of the power that it has, right? So you go to the Aba women's riots that happened in Nigeria under British colonial rule in 1929, where basically the warren chiefs who were in the community were appointed to uphold the colonial laws. And the women employed a practice called sitting upon a man, and basically would protest naked every day outside his house, at his place of work, until he paid attention. Now it's a play, because you know if you protest naked, people are paying attention. People who normally wouldn't pay attention would pay attention. But also men are so terrified of the body that they're like, oh, are these women cursing us? Are these women hexing us?
Someone was seen as a curse.
It's seen as a curse, especially to see the body of an older woman, to see the buttocks of an older woman naked is seen as a curse, so they become terrified. Way further in, and perhaps our memory, you've got 1994, Wangari Maathai leading a woman in Freedom Square to protest. You've got the woman at Fees Must Fall, Roads Must Fall. You've got the woman at Rhodes protesting against the reference list to say, here's a list of all these men who are raping women. It's okay for them to strip us naked and rape us in the rooms. We can't be in the streets. Why won't you look at our bodies? Why won't you look at what's actually happening?
Well, I mean, it is such a powerful message. Slengiwe, I mean, how would you like to see this play possibly a greater role in South Africa? And what do you think should happen to Gugu because she was arrested and whisked away?
First of all, I would like to say, really, there is nothing wrong or there is nothing surprising about a woman's body. It's just like every day sport is men. They play soccer every day. They strip and they have their tops off and then they do their business as usual. So this sexualization of women's bodies, the objectification of women's bodies is very problematic. And really, in order for that, so as my colleague back in the Johannesburg studios has already highlighted the historicity of this type of protest, why do women always take extreme measures? Why do they have to use their bodies as tools? Why can't society just respect women? Like in the case of Gugu yesterday, it's something that happens every day in academia. Young academics, young black women in these spaces, they're always victimized and everything, sexually harassed, and they're exploited through all ways. And if you refuse to comply, then that's what happens. Why can't we have mechanisms in all these institutions that are going to protect women so that we don't have to use our bodies to protest? Why can't we just be treated as equal human beings? We have a right to survive in society like everyone else.
Seems it's going to take a long time in this country, sadly. What if a man decided to protest naked? What if men got together and protested on behalf of women naked? What sort of
Men
impact would that?
protest in the most bizarre ways all the time, apparently on behalf of women. Wear lipsticks, wear high heels. And also it's a little bit different because a man's body is already a weapon in this country. Men's bodies are physically a threat to us. So then protesting naked becomes more of an attack, actually.
Interesting. And it's incredible the sort of courage that it takes, doesn't it, to go that route?
Because you already know what people are going to say. You already know the reactions and the responses, and to still go ahead and do it anyway.
Nkosi, Hlengiwe and Ndlovu, thank you, both of you.
Thank you.
Up next, Brexit deal or no deal. Theresa May now has to make a third attempt to get an exit deal passed through Parliament. We talk about the big picture with the UK High Commissioner here in the studio.